Usually, when we talk about consumer pricing, a massive sudden discount is a reason to celebrate.
Oh, absolutely.
Right. Like you see an 80% off sign in a window and you assume the store is just trying to lure you in.
Yeah, trying to clear out some old inventory or something.
Exactly. But what if the entity offering that 80% discount is the United States government and the product they are discounting is the price of legally giving up your American citizenship?
It is quite the paradox when a nation throws a fire sale on the exit door.
It really is. Welcome to today's deep dive. Today we are looking at a fascinating, highly detailed blog post published on March 13th, 2026.
Right, on the Isaac Brock Society, written by John Richardson.
Exactly. And our mission today is to unpack a newly announced final rule from the State Department, decode the absolute alphabet soup of international tax laws, driving Americans to actually renounce their citizenship, and, explore what this all means for the global financial identity of expats.
Yeah, because we are really looking at the intersection of national identity, global finance, and honestly, incredibly dense bureaucratic regulation.
So, okay, let's unpack this. The headline of this blog post really focuses on the sticker shock.
Or rather, the relief from it.
Right. The fee to obtain a certificate of loss of nationality, which is the official document you need to formally renounce your U.S. citizenship, that fee is officially dropping.
It used to be $2,350 US.
Which is wild.
It's a huge amount, but now the State Department is slashing it down to $450.
And a massive reduction, like 80%. And this final rule is slated to be published in the Federal Register on March 13th, 2026, which means it takes effect 30 days later, right? On April 13th.
That's right. But the author notes a very important caveat here. This fee reduction is strictly prospective.
Meaning it is not retroactive.
Exactly. If you were one of the people who already paid the $2,350 last year, or the year before, you are not getting a refund check in the mail.
Oh, wow. That has to be a bitter reality for a lot of people who recently went through the process.
It really is. In fact, the author highlights a comment from a blog reader, Stephen Arvey, who argued that if an individual is facing undue hardship just trying to comply with U.S. tax laws while living abroad in their new home country.
Which is the case for a lot of them.
Right. Then the fee shouldn't just be reduced. It should actually be $0.
I mean, think about the world's absolute worst gym membership.
Oh, that's a good way to look at it.
Yeah. You moved away from the gym years ago. You live on another continent. You don't use the treadmills. You don't use the pool.
Right. You're literally thousands of miles away.
But not only do they keep demanding you send them incredibly detailed financial reports every year just to prove you don't owe them monthly dues.
Which is exhausting.
It is. And then when you finally say, I want to cancel, they hit you with a $2,350 cancellation fee just to print the receipt saying you left.
It really captures the frustration perfectly.
But wait, I have to ask. The State Department noted that $450 only covers a fraction of the cost to the U.S. government to process this. What exactly is so administratively expensive about tearing up a passport and updating a database?
Well, the government views the issuance of a certificate of loss of nationality as a highly complex administrative service.
Like lots of red tape.
Exactly. It requires consular officer interviews, legal reviews by the Directorate of Overseas Citizen Services in Washington.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And they have to ensure the individual is acting voluntarily and with a full understanding of the consequences. But, the price of the fee isn't the real story here.
It's not.
No. The real story is the demand for the service. The government isn't lowering the fee out of the goodness of their hearts, right? They are responding to a breaking point.
Okay, so the pressure on these expats is immense, but the IRS isn't exactly known for its empathy.
Definitely not.
So to understand why people are sprinting for the exit door in the first place, we have to look at how the U.S. tax system actually operates outside American borders.
Right, we have to talk about worldwide taxation.
Yes, or citizenship taxation. And the United States is incredibly unique in this regard. According to the source, the only other country known for a version of this is Eritrea.
And the blog notes the U.S. version is far worse.
It's crazy. Essentially, if you hold a U.S. passport, the IRS taxes your global income regardless of where you actually live or work.
Right, because for the vast majority of the world, taxation is based on residency.
Meaning you pay taxes to the country where you actually live, right, where you drive on the roads and use the local services.
Exactly. But for U.S. citizens, That geographic reality simply doesn't matter to the Internal Revenue Service.
And the blog points out how infuriating this is for expats. I mean, it's like being billed for your old neighborhood's block party and street sweeping years after you move to a different continent.
That's exactly how it feels. And they are spending hundreds, sometimes thousands of dollars every single year on specialized cross-border tax professionals.
Justify.
Yes. And the kicker is that many of them end up owing $0 in actual U.S. taxes after paying all those accounting fees.
So they spend a fortune just to prove they owe nothing. And they feel like they get zero benefits for their compliance, right? The source mentions they didn't get free COVID vaccines from the U.S. when they were abroad.
Right. They don't get Medicare Part B abroad. And they certainly aren't driving on improved U.S. infrastructure. It creates this deep sense of alienation when your only meaningful relationship with your country of birth is an annual reporting bill.
But wait, let me play devil's advocate for a second. Isn't there a social contract here?
I mean,
Like, if the U.S. Embassy has to airlift you out of a crisis zone, or if you simply rely on the power and protection of a U.S. passport while traveling, isn't it fair that citizens support their country just in case they ever need that safety net?
well, that is the standard defense of citizenship taxation. Yeah. The idea of a lifelong social contract.
Yeah.
But what's fascinating here is, if we break this down, we have to look at the difference between tax liability and compliance burden.
Okay, what's the difference?
For most of these expats, it is not actually about writing a check to the IRS for taxes owed.
Yeah.
Like we said, the foreign tax credits usually cancel out double taxation.
So they don't actually owe money to the U.S. government.
Usually no. The real issue is the sheer punitive complexity of proving to the IRS that you do not owe them taxes. That compliance burden is what is driving the renunciations.
And that burden has some absolutely terrifying acronyms attached to it.
Oh, the alphabet soup.
Exactly. The source names the core villains here: FATCA, FBRR, PFIC, and GILTI.
Yeah, let's walk through those.
Let's do it. Let's start with FATCA, the Foreign Account Tax Compliance Act. How does that work?
So FASI is the big one. It fundamentally altered the global financial landscape. FATCA requires foreign financial institutions, so we're talking banks, brokerages, pension funds, to report the assets and identities of their U.S. clients directly to the IRS.
Directly to the IRS. That sounds like a massive headache for a foreign bank.
It is. And the mechanism the U.S. uses to enforce this is brutal. If a foreign bank refuses to comb through its customer base and report the Americans, the U.S. government threatens them with a massive 30% withholding tax on any U.S. source transactions they make.
30%. So if a bank in Paris or Tokyo wants to interact with the U.S. financial system, which, I mean, every major bank basically has to do, they are literally forced to act as an unpaid reporting arm of the IRS.
Exactly. And that explains why foreign banks often refuse American money entirely.
Right. They just denied them.
Yeah. They look at the massive regulatory risk and the compliance costs of having an American customer, and they simply say it's easier to just close your account.
Oh, wow. So because of FAFSA, everyday life abroad has become nearly impossible for U.S. expats. The blog notes they are routinely denied basic bank accounts. They can't get mortgages.
Right. It's structural exclusion.
But even if they do manage to get a bank account, they still have to deal with FBR, right? The Foreign Bank Account Report.
Yep. FBAR is a separate reporting requirement, and this one is managed by the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, not just the IRS.
Financial crimes? That sounds serious.
Very. If the aggregate value of all your foreign financial accounts exceeds $10,000 at any point in the calendar year, you have to file this report.
Wait, aggregate?
Yeah, it is an aggregate total. So if you have $5,000 in a checking account and $6,000 in a savings account.
You cross the threshold.
Exactly. And the penalties for forgetting to file that form or just making a simple mistake are notoriously severe. They often start at $10,000 per non-willful violation.
$10,000 for an accident. But the investment side is where it gets truly wild to me. The blog mentions PFIC rules, passive foreign investment companies. How does that stop an expat from saving for retirement?
Well, a PFIC is essentially any foreign mutual fund or exchange-traded fund.
Okay.
So say an American living in London wants to buy a standard UK mutual fund to save for retirement, just like their British neighbors.
Makes sense.
The IRS treats that foreign mutual fund as a PFIC and subjects it to an incredibly punitive tax regime. We are talking about complex accounting requirements and the highest marginal tax rates applied to unrealized gains.
Unrealized gains. So money they haven't even cashed out yet.
Right. It effectively destroys the compound interest that makes normal retirement planning possible.
So they are totally blocked from investing in mutual funds or ETFs in their countries of residence.
Pretty much.
And what about GILTI, Global Intangible Low-Taxed Income? I mean, that sounds like a corporate rule for massive tech companies hiding patents and tax havens.
It was designed for multinational corporations. But the way the law was written, it caught American small business owners abroad in the crossfire.
How so?
Well, if an American expat opens a local bakery in Rome, right, and they incorporate it there to comply with local Italian laws.
Just a normal small business.
Yeah. The IRS might look at the retained earnings of that small bakery and tax them under the GILTI regime, treating it as if it were an offshore tax shelter.
That is insane. So they can't save for retirement locally, they can't easily run a local business, and they can't even get a basic mortgage.
It's a complete financial blockade.
And to make matters worse, the commenters in the source noted they also face massive hurdles investing back in the United States because U.S. brokerages don't want to deal with clients who don't have a local U.S. address or phone number.
They are financially marginalized in their country of residence and functionally locked out of the financial system of their country of citizenship.
Wow.
When you understand that level of friction in simply trying to exist in the modern economy, the $2,350 fee to renounce citizenship suddenly looks like a necessary ransom rather than an administrative charge.
It really does. So what does this all mean? To understand why the State Department actually blinked and lowered this fee, we have to look at how a tiny group of people managed to force the government's hand.
Right, the public response.
Because the State Department's final rule wasn't just a quiet price change. The notice explicitly addressed 910 comments that were submitted during the public notice period.
Just 910.
Yeah. In a country with hundreds of millions of people, 910 comments is a drop in the bucket.
It is, but they were highly coordinated. The source points out these comments were heavily driven by individuals and specific advocacy groups.
Groups like Association des Américains Accidentals or Accidental Americans.
Right, and Stop Extraterritorial American Taxation, known as SEAT.
And Democrats abroad.
Yes. And the blog author, John Richardson, considers this a massive victory.
Because of those comments, right?
Exactly. Because of those 910 voices, the executive branch was forced to officially acknowledge that FATCA and the U.S. system of worldwide taxation are the direct causes of people renouncing their citizenship.
They actually admitted it. The State Department even cited a 2019 Government Accountability Office report, GAO 19180, which tasked agencies to collaboratively address the burdens FATCA places on U.S. persons abroad.
That is a critical admission from the federal government. But there is a crucial catch here.
What's the catch?
The State Department explicitly stated in their ruling that they cannot alter U.S. tax compliance laws.
Well, yeah, they're the State Department, not the Treasury.
Right. They also cannot amend the user charge statutes to just waive the fee for people who don't have a sufficient residential connection to the U.S.
Which is what some of those advocacy groups were asking for, right?
Exactly. They can only lower the cost to help, quote, alleviate the cost burden.
It's like calling customer service about a broken TV, and they say, we legally can't fix your TV, but we hear your frustration, so we're giving you a discount on the phone call you made to complain.
That is a perfect analogy. It is a masterclass in jurisdictional limitations. The State Department is throwing expats a lifeline with this $450 fee because they legally cannot turn off the water.
The water being the Treasury Department and the IRS tax laws.
Precisely. The State Department is doing the absolute maximum within their legal authority to alleviate the cost burden of leaving because they have zero power to fix the legislative burden of staying.
Okay, so the executive branch has essentially done all it can do here. The narrative in this blog post then naturally shifts to the only people who actually have the power to rewrite the Internal Revenue Code.
The legislative branch, Congress.
Exactly. Because regulatory tweaks can only go so far when the underlying statute is the problem.
Right. And the source notes there is a clear trend of the executive branch starting to understand the magnitude of this issue.
Yeah, we saw the 2019 IRS relief procedures for former citizens. We saw the 2025 Taxpayer Advocate Report highlighting these immense compliance burdens. And now this 2026 fee reduction from the State Department.
But when we look at Congress, the legislative attempts seem to constantly stall out.
The blog mentions two specific pieces of legislation: the holding bill, which was introduced in 2018, and the LaHood bill from 2024.
Right. But the author specifically notes that neither of these bills actually proposed a pure end to citizenship taxation.
No, What did they propose?
They proposed a transition to a form of residency-based taxation, but with massive strings attached. They would provide some relief, sure, but the core system of keeping Americans tethered to the U.S. tax net remains.
That's a half measure.
Exactly. And various groups, like American Citizens Abroad, or ACA, are relentlessly pushing for a permanent, clean legislative fix.
And the blog actually embeds tweets highlighting how this issue forces engagement from across the entire political spectrum.
It's fascinating.
It really is. Like, you've got Democrats abroad actively submitting comments to the State Department. And then on the exact same page, there is a tweet thanking Donald Trump and Republicans overseas for championing an end to double taxation.
It hits everyone.
It does. And I want to explicitly pause here just to tell you listening, this deep dive is entirely impartial. We are taking absolutely no sides between left-wing or right-wing figures. We are simply reporting the actors involved in this specific issue exactly as they are cited in the blog.
Right. Our goal is just to map out the landscape based on the source material.
Exactly. But it is fascinating to see such an obscure international tax issue grab attention from both ends of the aisle.
It is a testament to how universally unpopular these compliance rules are among the people living under them. But, if we connect this to the bigger picture, changing the Internal Revenue Code requires massive political capital.
Yeah.
You need unified voting blocks to pressure lawmakers to prioritize your issue over thousands of competing interests.
And that is the fatal flaw for expats, isn't it? I mean, if neither the 2018 Holding Bill nor the 2024 LaHood Bill could get across the finish line, are expats just stuck in an endless loop of minor legislative tweaks that never actually solve the problem?
Well, look at the mechanics of political geography. Expats, by definition, are scattered across the globe.
Right.
They vote in different states, they live in different time zones, and they lack the unified, concentrated voting power required to swing a specific congressional race.
They don't have a single senator or representative standing up in committee saying, these tax rules are destroying the economy of my district.
Exactly, because expats don't live in a district.
Which makes them an incredibly easy target for revenue collection, or at least compliance enforcement.
Yes. When Congress needs to project an image of cracking down on offshore tax evasion, expats become the collateral damage of sweeping legislation like FATCA.
Because they have all the burdens of citizenship without the political leverage to defend themselves.
They are politically vulnerable. And until they can aggregate their political capital, they will likely continue to face a system that treats every American abroad as a potential tax evader until proven innocent through reams of costly paperwork.
It's pretty bleak. And, you might be sitting there listening to this in Ohio or Texas or California thinking, I'm never leaving the U.S. Why should I care about a discount on a renunciation fee for people living in Paris or Tokyo?
It's a fair question.
But you should care, because this entire saga highlights how rapidly the world is changing. It showcases the incredible, almost inescapable reach of a nation's financial surveillance.
It really highlights how deeply intertwined your passport is with your wallet.
Right. The U.S. passport is no longer just a travel document granting you entry into foreign countries.
No, it is a defining piece of your global financial identity, carrying obligations that follow you into every bank branch on Earth.
Going back to our gym analogy, you sign up for the gym thinking it's about health and access.
Yeah.
But you don't realize until you try to leave that the contract allows them to monitor your bank accounts, restrict where you can invest, and charge you a small fortune just to walk out the door.
And the State Department just lowered that exit fee, sure.
Right.
But the contract itself remains ironclad.
Which leaves us with a profound question, one that isn't explicitly answered in the blog, but is undeniably the undercurrent of this entire debate.
Yeah, if a passport is no longer just a document of protection, safe harbor, and belonging,
but functionally acts as a lifelong financial tether that you literally have to pay a fee to sever.
in the modern, digital, globalized economy, who truly owns your identity? Is it you or the country where you happen to be born?
That is definitely something to chew on the next time you look at that little blue book in your travel drawer. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive as we unpacked the complexities of citizenship, taxation, and the true price of saying goodbye. Keep questioning the systems around you, keep looking for the why behind the headlines, and we will catch you on the next deep dive.